Okay, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was going to do this earlier, but then I was listening to an audiobook and I got wrapped up into it and took a bath but here I am now. Again, I'm in bed and let's talk about I think the last episode of the season. I'm pretty sure. But I'm hearing that they're going to have another season, which would be great. And I've been hearing around that Crystal, his wife, his last wife, is going to talk. I hope there's other episodes. See, I'm not sure. They keep talking about the fact that the season was over, but they had two 1 hour episodes extra. And this was after it all came out. And so some of these women got attacked from people on social networking saying, "Oh, you're full of shit." And I've gotten that here, leaving comments, and I completely understand why they would leave those comments. And I understand why they would think that these women are just making shit up. But why? That's the big question. What's the motive? What's their motivation for making this up? If they wanted to remain relevant, they still had Hef in their lives on some level. Not everyone, but some of them did. So why not come out then, like Holly did? Holly wrote her book while he was still alive, which was so freaking brave. And as I said, I didn't really think much of her before, and I didn't know much of her because I didn't watch the show, The Girls Next Door. And so for me, it was just like, I admit, I thought she was just a gold digger and a bimbo or whatever. I didn't really think anything of her. I just thought she's really fake. I don't, I'm trying not to make judgments like that anymore, even though I still do. I think we all do. But I like her, and I think that, yes, she wanted to sell a book, obviously, but I also think that she needed to tell the truth. There's still things that she didn't talk about, but I think she wanted to come out and kind of unburden her soul or what have you. And I get that. As someone who is about to publish their own book, I completely understand. I mean, it must have been embarrassing for her to admit that she had to sleep with him to be able to live at the Playboy Mansion. I mean, she owned it. These women are owning it. It's embarrassing. The shit they're talking about is really embarrassing. And the fact that they're able to talk about this, yes, after he already died. Like, he lived a fabulous life. He really did. Seemingly. Because when I really think about it, I'm thinking he had to live up to the hype that he created himself. And so he always had to one up himself. And he must have been deeply insecure. The fact that he was getting old and he was never very attractive. And it was mainly his personality. I just didn't think he was attractive physically because of his personality. You know how some people, they become more beautiful no matter what they look like, or more handsome? He's someone that he always was super creepy to me and was never someone that I would have slept with regardless of what I would have gotten out of it. But that's just me. I'd already been there, done that by the time I was legal. You know what I mean? Some of these girls, they were innocent. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Were so excited. A lot of them were insecure and didn't feel beautiful or pretty, and suddenly developed, and they were getting this attention, especially from Playboy, who was supposed to be like the classy magazine, the one that every woman wanted to be in, the one that every man wanted to look at and sleep with the girls in it. That's the male fantasy. So he needed to keep that. He needed to keep up that lifestyle for 92 years, was it? That's exhausting. And the truth is, I don't think he ever really fell in love with anyone but himself. I think he only cared about himself. He was a narcissist. But at the same time, I think he was very insecure. You know, I've dated people like that. I've dated men that are they seem like they wouldn't be insecure, like they're an actor, and you're thinking, oh, they must have a lot of confidence in themselves. But the truth is, they need that constant reinforcements from everyone around them, you know, telling them, backing them up, and coming to their aid when they're insecure. They need to be stroked. Their ego needs to be stroked. And with Hef, it was the ego, it was the penis, all of it. It's he needed everything to be stroked. And the only way he had friends, which I feel he had a bunch of fake ass friends around him. Maybe his brother, you know, maybe that was the person who was loyal. But the truth is, if he didn't have all of these beautiful women around him and easily accessible for his friends, you know, the so called friends, I think he would have had nothing. They wouldn't have hung around him. So he had the best of both worlds, kind of, but he had to manipulate, connive, cheat, buy, you know, rape. He had to do all of that to get that. So he had all of these men that were, some of them are famous and rich and successful, and that's who he liked to associate with. Up until like the last, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 years of his life, he started kind of, I don't know, getting the bottom of the barrel people, you know, has-beens, people that used to be famous. So the young girls there would probably be like, oh, when I was a little girl, a little kid, you know, sucking on my pacifier, I remember seeing your movie or whatever. I mean, when you really think about how young these girls are, and you think about the people that hung around the Playboy Mansion, it's kind of disgusting. Yeah, when you think about how young they really were. You have to go back. You have to remember how young you were and how you thought when you were 18, 19, 20. Those years, you know? Yeah. There's so much you're naive about. Even if you've been molested, raped, whatever, you still are mentally not fully developed yet. And so, if you're insecure and you've been hurt in the past, and there's a bevy of men just putting you on a pedestal and sexualizing you when you don't even think you're sexy, you know, they're like, you're so beautiful, you're hot, you know, and they're, ugh, I could see how these women fell into that trap. And especially if he put you on the pedestal and said, you're my girlfriend, I want you to be the main girlfriend, even though he's fucking everyone else at the same time. So somebody brought that up on here. One of my subs was saying that, I think it's Sandra. No, that's the employee. Okay. Susie. I think it was Susie. No, she wrote a book. Susie is someone that was also abused, and she wrote a book about it. I don't know what the book's name is. I tried to look for it. I think it must have been quite a while ago because I don't remember even hearing about the book. So I'm trying to think of the main girlfriend. They had a trauma expert on, a psychiatrist or therapist or what have you. And, you know, she was. I wish they would go in great detail. You know, it's hard for me to remember everyone's names because I was someone that wasn't. I wasn't into Playboy. I didn't even want to be in it. As I said, I got offered the college edition, and I realized I realized at that time that I didn't really think the lifestyle was for me, you know, even though, so here's a picture of her, this was his main girlfriend for quite a while. But for some reason, the name escapes me, but I'll figure it out. I think it's like it's 4 in the morning. She was so uniquely just beautiful. And he, even though he was young then, he's still just, I didn't find him attractive. I've never looked at a picture of him and thought, okay, I get it. Yeah, I totally get it. What I do get, I don't get that, but I do get why he started this magazine to begin with. I don't think he was the type that really got laid because he was attractive or smart. I think the men that hung around him, the same thing. I think that without their, their fame or their money or whatever, I don't think they would really be anybody. So, this last episode, they were talking to the girls, the women, I should say, and, saying, look, they keep describing the same freaking thing in every thing that I'm pulling up. So I don't know who the girlfriend is. Sandra, I don't know. I showed the picture, and there's people that are going to say, oh, you need to do your research or what have you. I'm just a girl that has a YouTube channel that happens to be interested in the subject. I'm not someone that spends, is a journalist. And that's, yeah, maybe I should have. Maybe I should have done a little research. I've done enough to talk about it. And that's why I call this segment In Bed With, to all the haters. I call it In Bed With because when you're hanging out with your friends and you're just like, oh, come over, we'll just have some, hot cocoa and talk about things. That's what I'm doing. When I want to do research and want to be like professional, I do a full video with pictures and whatever, and I do the research. Okay, so from what I got from this episode was that the main girlfriend got a lot of shit from others about coming forward. There's a lot of people that are still defending him, especially his son, which is understandable. But he wasn't there. I don't think he was. He was a baby then when this woman dated him, Hef, and she feels guilty a lot. People say, well, she aided and abetted or whatever. Yeah, it's true. She used to find the girls and bring them up to have orgies. And just like people are saying, well, she made that choice and this and that. Well, so did those girls that joined the orgies. It wasn't like she drugged them herself. He made her the main girlfriend, which when you're young, I think she was like 19 too. She was 19, 20, maybe 21 at the most when she first started dating him. And how exciting that must be when you're that young and someone who's like larger than life is like, you know what? I think you're the most beautiful and I want you to be my main girlfriend. And you're in the magazine too because you're the main girlfriend. And everybody looks up to you. Everyone around is like, wow, you're the main girlfriend. That's a big deal for these girls. And it wasn't my dream, but it was theirs. That's what we have to remember is this is what they thought was like the apex of life. Like they're, yeah. Think about your biggest dream. Think about what you've always wanted. And that's, you have to be able to put yourself in their shoes. So yeah, she kind of had to do whatever he said and wanted. And he wanted other girls as well. So she would, go talk to the people at the party and say, hey, you know what? Do you want to come and hang out upstairs? And so they would say, yeah, sure, that's awesome. I get, oh my God, I'm going to be invited to go upstairs with Hugh Hefner. Because even though they had these parties, you have to remember that not everybody was chosen. And so I had a friend that I just talked to the other day that used to go there on occasion. And she's like, I would go on Sundays and they would have like a petting zoo and this and that, and it was so much fun and nothing bad ever happened, and there was no drugs, and I never saw anyone doing drugs, and I didn't see anyone naked. And at first I was like, yeah, maybe it's just and then I just started really thinking about it, and I thought, okay, well, of course there was no drugs out and about like that. They didn't do street drugs. And I think I talked about this in my last little show. They didn't do street drugs. They did a lot of roofies, and they smoked pot, and obviously they drank. But any legal drugs were not allowed on the premise. And everyone's like, well, Hugh never did drugs. And just, yeah, he did. He absolutely did. There's so many witnesses that says he did. He would take pills. He would take pills to get a boner, but he would also take roofie. He'd roofie himself sometimes. Holly said that in that limo, he roofied himself. And I believe her. I really do. And it's because she was so brave to come forward when she did. And she threw herself under the bus quite a few times. So I like Holly now. I think that maybe I didn't at first in the past. I thought, oh God, you know, she had her boobs done and nose. But you know what? He paid for all of that. The women that were there that he wanted to be highlighted, they had to look a certain way. They had to have their boobs done. They had to dye their hair bleach blonde. They had to get the fake tan. They had to get their lips done or whatever it is, fake eyelashes, all of that. And so he chose people, and the ones that weren't chosen didn't see the bad. And so there was good. There was good and there was bad. There always is in life. But there was a lot of bad. And I think people are discounting these women. They're kind of nullifying what they've been through and Xing it out, saying it never happened. Well, no, it did for them. They experienced this. Maybe you didn't. They weren't there. You weren't chosen. So my friend probably had great experiences there. And my other friend got drugged. Don't know. I think that one of my friends liked to party. She was a party girl, and so I'm sure that she was easy prey. And I'm not saying anything bad about her. It's not her fault. But yeah, when you're drinking and partying, and you're like, woo, and you're just, twerking on someone, some older man. Everyone did. It was just those parties were crazy. But my other friend, she doesn't smoke, she doesn't drink, she doesn't do anything. And she's not that type that is openly sexual, if you know what I mean. She's not like, she doesn't display it. She's beautiful, really, really pretty. She doesn't like wear like low cut shirts and bleach her hair blonde, and she doesn't play that role. And so she's a pretty girl at the Mant, and she's hanging around, all her friends and having fun. So she doesn't see the dark side of it. She wasn't invited upstairs. Thank God. Like I'm thankful that my friend didn't have to go through that. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. So there's a lot of people that are like, I went there all the time. Nothing ever happened. I didn't see anything. Yeah, you weren't invited. Straight up. Yeah. So there was a woman on tonight that went through the whole shebang, like did the test shots and was going to be in the magazine, and there's some pictures of her, for the magazine. And Hugh was there. This was supposedly why he was being a good boy with his wife and kids, and I knew that was just bullshit. He just pretended that he was being a good boy. And so he invited her up to his room. She came to the mansion, and he's like, oh, well, come up, look at your pictures. Don't ever go up anywhere with a man like that. But she didn't know. How was she going to know? That was her first experience with that. And I think she was around like 19 or 22. And so she went up there, he showed her the pictures, and they were gorgeous. And she was like, wow, these turned out really well. And I can't remember what, I think yeah, he offered her something. I can't remember what happened. Don't, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, but she ended up being raped, she said, by Hugh. The next thing she knew, she said he was on top of her, and she didn't move. She couldn't move. She couldn't speak. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She was just laying there in shock. And so she fell asleep. And the next day, she skipped town. She said, fuck this, I'm out of here. And they called her and they said, oh, you have to come in, and she's like, no, I'm not coming. I'm not doing it. And I think Hugh's wife called her and asked her what happened. Did he ask you to go up into the room? And she lied and said, no, I just went up there. And so, so she wasn't in the magazine because of that, because she got violated. She left and said, fuck this. And you look at the pictures that she posted, that they posted in the show, and she's gorgeous, beautiful, prettier than some of the girls that have been playmates, you know? So I do think something happened. And then she reached out. I'm wanting to say Sandra, but like I said, I can't remember the main girlfriend's name. So she reached out to her and said, this happened to me. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And they talked. So then the other girl came on, the one that wrote a book, and she's like, oh my God, I wonder what happened to all those pictures. I shouldn't be laughing because it's horrifying. And she goes, you don't know? She goes, oh, yeah, those pictures, they were sold to porn sites. They're all over the internet. And the girl's like, wait, what? Are you kidding me? She goes, yeah. She goes, look it up. They use people like, they use women like us to get people to go there. Nude pictures of so and so, nude Playboy playmate, Hef's girlfriend, whatever. And so she was kind of getting teary eyed because she didn't know that. And I guess Crystal had called up the main girlfriend, ex main girlfriend, and said, oh, yeah, I found your pictures and I'm going to destroy them. And she's like, oh, thank you, So Crystal isn't as bad as I thought. But at the same time, she did marry an old man for money. I said it. I can't. There's certain things that I could feel badly for. I could go, God, these women had it hard, and I believe them. I really do. And there's just too many of them these aren't the only ones. There's more to come. And I've heard stories about Playboy Mansion for years, that's why I didn't go. I was afraid. So, but, the fact that Crystal says, oh, I'm not a gold digger, I don't know why. You don't know why people think that? You married an old man, like super, super old, and you knew that he might not have much longer to live. Like, I don't even think he was lucid, to be honest. I don't think that he was in his right mind when he married her. Because I remember seeing interviews with him and I was thinking, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. Like, he is out there. And so she knew that, okay, if I marry him now, he'll be dead in a few years. And I'm going to get money. I'm going to get money, and then it's going to make up for all of these years that I've been kissing his ass and putting up with him and sleeping with him and all of that. That's what I'm thinking. Like, marrying him was like revenge, or for her to get hers, Like, I've given 10 years to this man. And she's claiming now that, it was horrifying and horrible. She has good memories, but there's like so many bad memories, and horrible things happened, and she's going to speak out. And I don't know if she's going to write a book, but I heard she's going on the show. It could be just a rumor. But even if that's the case, you're a gold digger. That's just what it is, and that's okay. Own it. you're the best gold digger ever, girl. Just own your shit, you know? Like these women, they own it. They're like, yeah, you know what? I wanted to be rich. I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be Hef's girlfriend. Who doesn't want to like be the number one? But the younger ones, they didn't really think that meant having to sleep with him because there was a show involved. But the older ones, from old school, they were like, I get to be like, centerfold. I get to be the head bitch, the one that everyone looks up to. Because back in the day, everyone wanted to date Hef. They wanted that celebrity, the power. There wasn't, like I said, I don't think there was that much money involved. They didn't get paid to sleep with him, I know that. And when you were a centerfold, you got like 15 to 20,000. I think it went up later, maybe to 40,000, I'm not sure. Surely not enough to sleep with Hef and his friends and all of that. For me, it wouldn't have been enough. For anyone, for normal people, but if this is your dream is to be a Playboy playmate and it's like a fantasy for some of these women. And so I get it in that way. And I don't believe they're lying. I don't think they would have a reason to. And if no one's believing them, but everybody believes Harvey Weinstein, that whole thing, um, what's the difference? You know? Unfortunately for Harvey, he he got himself caught on audio tape with this beautiful Italian actress. So that there was proof there. Also the non-disclosure agreement with Rose. So that got him busted. There was a few things, but there were so many people that came forward. And how are we to know if that's true or not? We don't know. So if we're going to believe one case, if we're going to believe that Harvey's this horrible monster, which he is, um, then why can't we believe that from Hef, the girls that speak out about Hef? I believe them, just like I believe the ones that have accused Harvey. I don't think they would have any reason to lie. And being manipulated, being pulled into this lifestyle, and owning the fact that you slept with him and you got other women to do it too is not a flattering light to be in. You know what I mean? So why would they lie about it? What are they getting from it? Even if A&E was paying them $5,000 maybe, if that. A&E, it's not like a huge network that has tons of money. If they really were trying to make money off of this, they would have written a book. And yeah, I mean, Holly did. She made a lot of money, but that wasn't really why she wrote it, I don't think, because she wouldn't have thrown herself under the bus. Even now, she's still doing it. She's still like, well, it was like a cult, and I was a cult member, and because he wanted this, he wanted me to have big boobs. I got big boobs, and because he wanted my nose to be smaller, I got my nose smaller. Like, she owns all of it. And just like, with me, I've had haters, tons of haters. And I finally got to that point where I was like, I'm going to own everything about myself. I'm just going to put it out there. I don't give a fuck. What are they going to say against me? I've already said it. So you get to that point where you stop playing the victim. You stop being like, oh, they're picking on me and all this stuff. And you own your shit. And people like me respect it. People like Hugh Hefner's son, who wants to believe his dad is this saint, this decent, really giving, amazing man, He owns that his dad lived this lifestyle, but he's acting as if he did no wrong. He wasn't there, he doesn't know, Um, But I respect people who own their faults, who own what they're going through, who are honest about themselves and the situation. And these women have been. They said, I wanted to be famous. I wanted to have money. I wanted to have power. I wanted to be in Playboy, you know? They've all said it. It's not like they're not horrible people, you know? They're not these horrible women that are trying to take down a man that's already dead. They're like spitting on his grave in spite. No, I mean, if they really, really were horrible human beings and they lying, they just would have came out with it while he was still alive and tried to destroy his life. They were afraid of him. He had a lot of power, he did, and his friends were powerful as well. And I think that they really didn't know how to do this. They didn't know how to go about this. So there you go. There's my take on it. I've been babbling on for like a half hour. But that was pretty much the last episode. It was, I think there was three main women total. One was the ex-girlfriend. One was the girl that got raped and was never in the magazine because of that. And then there was another one that was raped as well. And then the therapist. And the journalist. The journalist was in the person that was interviewing these women was in the magazine at one point. Um, yeah. So it's just it breaks my heart to see that after all these years, and the main girlfriend whose name it just I cannot remember right now. I'm sorry. Um, I felt badly for her because she did keep in touch with Hugh the whole time, you know, until he after he died, she's came out, but she would go to the parties and what have you, and she'd bring her daughter, and she told him to stay away from my daughter. She's a really pretty daughter, and she didn't want him to groom her. So the whole family thought it was just like, oh, this is amazing, that. But when she came out, they were upset with her, and so they finally came around and said, I'm so sorry that you went through this. And they didn't believe her at first because they're like, why were you always over there and this and that? Okay, sometimes I'm somebody that had an abusers, and they make you fear them. So you don't really talk about it. And when you're around them, you're so nervous to just do anything wrong or say anything. You're afraid that they're going to hurt you or blame you. There's a lot of guilt involved. And so with these women, I think they didn't want to be attacked. They're to be in that situation to begin with, they were kind of vulnerable and they were targeted, because of their history, because they were molested, because they were naive, whatever it was, sociopaths like Hugh, he knew exactly which ones to prey on. He knew which ones would give in. And so that's what happened. And I'm glad that she has her family support now and they believe her. And the husband was like a friend of Hugh's, so he kind of knew what was going on. He knew. A lot of people knew. Yeah. All right. So there's my take on that. I might take in individual women and just talk about them individually. But we'll see. I think they're going to come back with another season. And I hope these women feel better. I hope that they're recovering and kind of moving on with their lives, because the first step into moving on is to kind of let it out, reveal it, talk about it. It's just, yeah, I just like the people that make comments on here, they should have let other people know, so it wouldn't happen to other people. They're victims, and then because they didn't talk, others became victims as well. But it's better late than never, as far as I'm concerned. It's healing. And it allows other people like myself to come forward and say, yeah, this happened to me too, but not in the same situation. But it's all about being brave and putting yourself out there to help others. Okay, so I'm finally going to bed. I was doing some writing, finishing up some writing tonight. Peace out, and thanks for watching with me. And if there's another episode, which I'm not sure,